Discover the incredible journey. Billionaire stands with Shunned, mom of triplets in a transformation of heart and community. The wind howled through the streets of Maplewood, carrying whispers of judgment like leaves spiraling in disappointment. Sarah Jenkins stood at the front of her worn-down house, a faded blue door concealing her chaotic reality. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she clutched the scroll of bills in one hand and squeezed the other to quell the tremor from her racing thoughts. The community she had once cherished now looked upon her with suspicion, their gaze cold like the November air. If the stairs could burn, she would be nothing but ash by now. Alone with her triplets, learning to navigate life without the man who promised forever, Sarah fought the demons of doubt. Could she really provide for them? Every morning she was up before the sun, pouring syrup on pancakes and shuffling the children into mismatched clothing that somehow still smelled like his cologne. The burden weighed heavier each day, multiplied by the sweet question from her kids. "Where's Daddy?" In the deep recesses of night she would stare at the ceiling, fear hanging like the cobwebs in the corners of their shared two-bedroom apartment. She felt trapped in a cycle of survival, waitressing before the sunrise, cleaning homes after dark, and the relentless joy her triplets demanded. Feeling like a ghost, she existed for them while she wrestled with the reality of being a shunned single mother in a town unwilling to embrace her struggle. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she prepared for the town's science fair, anxiety bubbled within her, and akin to a swarm of bees attacking an unsuspecting flower. She was consumed by vulnerability. The thought of her triplets presenting projects they worked on with Jack Thompson, the wealthy tech mogul visiting from afar, sent her heart into a vicious spiral. What if they faltered? What if she faltered? What could possibly protect them from the disdainful stares she had grown to loathe? The juxtaposition of her life with Jack's success caused a knot to form in her stomach, a simmering suspicion that she was dragging down those around her. His easy laughter echoed in her mind. Could she afford to forge a bond with a man who had risen while she stumbled? Every interaction with him felt like a beacon of hope and the specter of failure combined. Fear clawed at her, battling against her instinct to trust in a friendship blossoming against all odds. How could she deny the hope of a better tomorrow when reality was pressing down so heavily? The night before their presentation, Sarah lay awake, picturing her children eagerly sharing their ideas while the world looked on, ready to judge, ready to pounce. The chance of Jack standing beside them solidified her resolve to break free from the chains of judgment, and the internal question loomed, would she risk everything for the very hope she once feared? A deep breath escaped her lips, but the tension coiling in her chest felt palpable, pushed tight like strings of a finely tuned instrument, just waiting for the power to shatter. Would they stand together, or would the impending storm tear them apart just as they rose to find their footing? The sweet laughter of her triplets echoed down the hall, as she realized that the true battle lay not in the fair's outcome, but rather in her willingness to embrace the chaos that life brought each day. The day of the science fair dawned with a fierce chill that cut through Maplewood like a serrated blade. Sarah Jenkins stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying a touch of concealer to her tired eyes, an effort to mask the sleeplessness that had plagued her. This day was not just another event for her triplets. It symbolized a pivot point for her own existence. As she fastened her hair into a tight bun, she felt the weight of her choices pressing heavily on her shoulders. Today would define everything. Steeling herself, she paced through their cramped apartment, collecting final touches for her children's projects. Each one represented not merely school assignments, but a hope for the future she inwardly demanded. The twinkling eyes of her triplets filled her with determination. They had been her lifeline through the murk of self-doubt. Yet her breath quickened at the thought of facing the community that had turned its back on her. Would they see her as the struggling mother striving for a better life, or as the failure they had branded her? As they piled into the car, the hum of excitement reverberated around her. Their projects, the science of sound, the plant life cycle, and a miniature solar system, reflected their innermost curiosities. Yet, amidst their chatter, Sarah felt a profound sense of detachment, as though she were viewing this moment from a great distance. This day was about forging a connection between her children and Jack. But inwardly, she wrestled with her worth. Upon arriving at the venue, her heart raced. Transformations in Jack hung like a specter as he smiled warmly at her children, exuding encouragement. He had become a fixture in their lives, bringing enthusiasm and ideas that sparked joy she had thought long extinguished. Yet as she watched him interact with the kids, a gnawing anxiety surged. Did she deserve to stand alongside him? The man who, despite all odds, had opened a door to a brighter future for her family. They took their positions in front of the audience, a sea of unfamiliar faces watching intently. Her triplets burst forth with enthusiasm, each eager to represent their projects. A flicker of pride surged in Sarah, yet was quickly replaced by a haunting inquiry. How would they deal with inevitable judgment? The moments passed in snapshots. Her children gestured to their projects, laughter erupted at their endearing foibles. In that warmth, she felt a flicker of something profound, a sense of belonging, perhaps. Moment by moment, the atmosphere brightened. Yet Sarah's thoughts raced ahead. She could hear whispers, the hushed conversations revolving around her. Steeling herself, she mentally rehearsed the words she might one day need to say if she stood in front of them and faced their disdain. When it was over and they walked away, she was surprised to see not only encouragement, but a genuine interest from other parents. Encouragement, a feeling she had stored away for too long. Jack's hand brushed against hers, grounding her. In that simple touch, she sensed a burgeoning strength within. It ignited a resolve, accompanied by a question that persisted deep in her mind. Was it possible to let go of the labels that haunted her? As the sun sank lower in the sky, she caught Jack's eyes, light and inviting with possibilities. Perhaps today never was merely about the science fair. Instead, it was her awakening to newfound possibilities of resilience, understanding, and acceptance. But then came a sudden twist from the corner of her eye. One figure, cold and familiar, made its way through the crowd. Instantly, her heart dropped as recognition took hold. This confrontation was inevitable, and with it came the steep reminder of the judgments she so desperately wished to escape. Would her resolve withstand the weight of the past, or would the long shadows of doubt reshape her future? The figure emerged from the throng with an air of familiarity that was both comforting and terrifying. As he navigated through the crowd, each step reverberated like the clanging of a prison door in Sarah's mind. The vestiges of their shared past overshadowed any resolve she had started to muster. It was Tom, her ex-husband, the man whose actions had catalyzed her downward spiral. His presence was the embodiment of everything she had fought to overcome. Gathering her breath, she tightened her grip on Jack's hand, almost instinctively seeking reassurance. Jack, ever observant, noticed the tension creeping into her body. His encouraging smile transformed into a look of quiet concern. "You don't have to talk to him," he said softly, but Sarah could feel the pull of inevitability. Ignoring Tom today would only postpone the confrontation looming like darkness over her spirit. As Tom approached, her heart quickened. She scrutinized his face, searching for any hint of the remorse she had yearned for, but instead, she found only indifference masked by casual charm. "Sarah," he remarked, feigning surprise. "I didn't know you'd be here." The arrogance in his tone sent a shiver down her spine. "Are you here for the children or to keep the gossip going?" She shot back before she could censor herself. The words hung heavy in the air, solidifying the distance between them. He chuckled, a low, humorless sound. "Always straight to the point. I admire that, you know." There was a sickly sweet veneer to his voice that felt rehearsed, like a showman eager to play the role of the caring father he couldn't be. "I see the kids are doing well. Have you been keeping them out of trouble?" His words felt like a knife. Did he think he could walk back into their lives with a casual remark? She could feel the collective gaze of parents and children drifting toward them, curiosity and judgment keenly evident. With a wave of determination, she straightened her back and defiantly met her ex-husband's eyes. "They're thriving, thank you. You wouldn't know, though, would you? You chose to walk away." Each word was a tiny act of reclamation, and with every syllable, she felt her past begin to loosen its grip. Tom couldn't suppress his irritation as the crowd's murmurs grew louder. "I'm not here to fight, Sarah, just checking in. I'll be at the reunion and I hoped we could—" "No," she interrupted, her voice steady despite the tremor within. "You don't get to pick and choose when you play father." The sudden strength in her voice surprised even her. It was as if a barrier on the path to her self-discovery had been breached. Jack shifted forward, a silent show of support that fortified her resolve. She caught his gaze, finding solace in his unspoken promise. She was not isolated in this fight. As Tom opened his mouth to respond, she knew that it was now or never. The moment swirled with potential, a tipping point in her struggle for self-identity. Could she finally be free from her past, from the lingering doubts that birthed from this man? Was she forging a new identity that aligned with the version of herself capable of joy, of acceptance? That question echoed in her mind like the stubborn notes of a song that refused to fade. With Tom there, she could either unravel under the scrutiny of his gaze or harness it as a catalyst for transformation. Steeling herself and drawing on every ounce of courage, she stepped back. "You may want to check in, but I'm moving forward, without you." His expression was a mix of surprise and anger, and for the first time, she saw him falter. Empowered by this small yet significant victory, she turned away, holding tightly to Jack's hand, feeling the pulse of possibility building within her. As they walked, a tumult of emotions swirled within her, the echoes of a past long haunting her transforming into a challenge she was ready to confront. Yet lingering questions flickered at the edges of her resolve. With each step away from him, she wondered if her real battle was still hidden in the shadows. What other ghosts might she have to face to fully embrace this new identity? And as she looked ahead, there was an inkling of something yet uncharted calling her to confront those remaining fears. As they stepped further away from Tom, Sarah could feel Jack's comforting presence like an anchor against the tide of her swirling thoughts. But the exhilaration of her stand against her ex-husband soon gave way to an unsettling reality. The confrontation had unleashed a storm within her, and she was acutely aware of the storm's implications for her future. Jack squeezed her hand. "You did great back there," he said, his voice low and sincere. Yet, despite the praise, Sarah could still feel the weight of Tom's indifference lingering like a shadow. She turned to Jack, her mind racing through the implications of her words. Was it truly just the past that she was breaking away from, or was it something deeper within herself? "I spoke my truth," she replied slowly, trying to sift through the tumult of her thoughts. "But what does that mean for me now? What part of my past is still fixed to me, one that I have not yet addressed?" This realization settled upon her like a heavy curtain, obscuring the bright path she had envisioned. Yes, she had taken a courageous step forward, but there was still the nagging uncertainty of what lay beneath the surface. Each victory she claimed only stirred further questions, and she couldn't ignore the urgency to dig deeper into herself. "Let's grab some coffee and you can tell me what's on your mind," Jack suggested, guiding her toward a nearby cafe. As they sat across from each other, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air, Sarah felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. "You know, I've spent so long defining myself through others," she began as she stirred her drink, her eyes focused on the swirling surface. "Tom, the kids, the mess of our failed marriage. I keep wondering who I am, the Susan before him or the Sarah I've become." Jack studied her intently, his brows furrowed in thought. "It's part of finding your identity. You've been through a lot, and change takes time. Sometimes the hardest part is giving yourself permission to explore who you want to be." The weight of his words resonated with her. She could feel the hidden layers of herself calling out, beckoning her to acknowledge their existence. "But how do I start to unravel it all?" she questioned, a sense of urgency permeating her tone. "What if I confront what I've buried so deeply that it threatens to consume me?" Jack hesitated, then leaned forward, choosing his words carefully. You're strong, Sarah. Remember, it's not about erasing the past, but integrating it into a new narrative. Embrace those darker parts. They're part of your journey. You can turn pain into fuel for a different path. As she contemplated his insight, a mix of fear and excitement welled up within her. Could she truly face those memories and fears without being overwhelmed? The thought of digging deeper into her psyche felt daunting, but possibly essential. I think I need to start with the reunion, she mused aloud, the idea sparking a flicker of determination. It's the perfect opportunity to confront not just Tom, but also those insecurities that still lurk in corners of my mind. I can reclaim my narrative. Jack nodded, a proud smile creeping onto his face. Absolutely. It's your opportunity to redefine your story in front of everyone, including yourself. With clarity overtaking her previous uncertainty, an undeniable resolve began to solidify within. This reunion could be more than a mere gathering. It could become a decisive chapter in her own life rewrite. However, shadows still loomed in the recesses of her mind. What about the relationships she was leaving behind? Would facing Tom really deliver the closure she craved, or would it expose further vulnerabilities? As she rose from the table, the weight of her decision felt tangible yet poised with promise. She was ready to face him, and herself, but knew she would need every ounce of resilience to carry forward. With each step taken away from the cafe and toward the next phase of her journey, the real question loomed larger. Would facing these ghosts ignite her transformation or invite new battles she had yet to prepare for? The days leading up to the reunion were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions for Sarah. Every time she glanced at her reflection, she saw a woman caught between two versions of herself, the timid figure defined by her marriage and the steely survivor forged in the fires of her struggles. The urgency to confront her past propelled her forward, yet the shadows of uncertainty crept into her thoughts, begging the questions she still hadn't answered. She immersed herself in the preparations, selecting an outfit that felt both empowering and reminiscent of her true self, the one she tucked away while she played the role of a devoted wife and mother. The vibrant red dress clung to her as she adjusted the neckline in front of the mirror, framing a determined expression that masked her inner trepidation. Would this attire help portray the strength she was still trying to feel? At every brush stroke of mascara and every spritz of perfume, memories of Tom would flicker in her mind like a film reel. His dismissive comments had always cut deeper than she had let on, leaving scars that still throbbed with the mere thought of his presence. She felt the tangling threads of anger and disbelief she had woven around herself since their split. It was time to unravel them, to bring them into the light rather than let them fester in the dark corners of her psyche. Maybe I should be more prepared, she muttered to herself, anxiety creeping back in like an old friend insisting on accompanying her. She grabbed her phone and scrolled through articles on personal empowerment, seeking some last-minute inspiration. The words echoed in her thoughts. You are not defined by your past. It resonated, challenging her to immerse herself fully in the vulnerability of the upcoming confrontation. She took a deep breath and picked up the phone. Calling her best friend, Amy, felt like a lifeline. How are you feeling about the reunion? Amy asked as she answered. I don't know, a mess, honestly, Sarah confessed. What if I'm not ready? What if I fall apart? There's so much about my past that I still feel like I own. A baggage I want to discard, but it just doesn't seem easy. Amy's laughter felt like a balm. You can't let fear dictate your journey, Sarah. You've already taken the first step. Now it's time to claim the next. Think of it as an act of self-discovery, not confrontation. Reclaim your power. Reassured by Amy's words, Sarah shifted perspective. Confrontation transformed into exploration. It was less about dismantling what Tom stood for, and more about revealing her own truth. The night of the reunion arrived, and Sarah stepped into the venue with purpose. The cool air brushed against her skin, steadying her nerves as she navigated through pockets of laughter and excited chatter. Each familiar face prompted a wave of nostalgia. They were reminders of what she had lost, but this time they also symbolized possibilities of who she could become. She spotted Tom across the room, his casual ease permeating the party atmosphere like an unsettling shadow. Her heart raced, but she willed her feet to carry her closer. Each step felt heavier, burdened by the weight of unspoken words and unexpressed emotions, yet ignited by the growing light of determination within. Standing in front of him, she felt the stark contrast between her past and present. "We need to talk," she stated, her voice firm despite the tremor underneath. The silence around them deepened, as if the world paused to witness her reckoning. In that moment, the air thick with tension, she understood that this was not just about confronting Tom. It was a battle for her own narrative. Would she allow her past to stifle her future, or would she find enough courage to carve out her own path? The churning uncertainty whispered, but Sarah felt a newfound clarity. This was her moment, not just an encounter with Tom, but a chance to delve into the core of who she was and what she was willing to fight for. The tension in the air was palpable as Tom's expression shifted from surprise to a more calculative demeanor, and Sarah braced herself for the unfolding drama. The true challenge awaited. She was ready. As the silence stretched between them, she asked herself again, was she truly prepared to face whatever may come? The charged atmosphere around them felt like a living entity, pulsating with an intensity that mirrored Sarah's internal battle. Tom's eyes held a mix of surprise and something deeper, a hint of regret perhaps. She wasn't here to decipher his emotions. This was about her. Memories collided within her, the moments spent entangled in his dismissive gaze, the way his words once diffused her confidence. Today, they served only as smoke in the wake of her clarity. "What do you want to talk about?" Tom sounded more guarded than curious, and that tone sparked a fire in Sarah's core. She took a steadying breath and chose her words with surgical precision. "I want to reclaim my story, Tom. You don't get to dictate it anymore." His brow furrowed, and for a fleeting moment, she saw the man she used to love, a man lost to bitterness and blame. But today, that man carried no power over her. The vulnerable energy she once exhibited had transfigured into a resolve forged not just by anger, but by the immense weight of unacknowledged self-acceptance and growth. "This isn't about you," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "It's about the woman I've become. Think about what your words once meant to me. They shaped a version I no longer recognize." The emotional stakes rose and surged between them, echoing the unresolved tension that had lingered ever since their separation. Tom's gaze hardened. "So this is how we're going to play it, huh? Blame me for your choices?" Her heart pounded at his familiar defensive stance, a reaction she had seen too many times before. But today she was aware of what was happening. This was not just about defending herself. It was an opportunity to stand firm, to declare ownership over her narrative. The very foundation of her confidence trembled under the weight of his accusation, but she steadied herself. "No," she countered, intentionally lowering her voice to cut through the static of discomfort between them. "This is about truth. My truth. I didn't have the strength to stand up for myself before, but I'm learning now. I'm not here to point fingers, but to assert, I won't let you take the narrative from me anymore." A flicker of recognition crossed his face, but it flickered out just as swiftly, replaced by defenses she had learned to read. It was like watching a crumbling wall rise around him. She felt pity, but also empowerment. Each revelation she shared pulled her further into the light, and the vulnerability she had been scared to feel now breathed life into her words. Tom let out a dismissive laugh, but it was lacking its usual bite. "You think you've changed?" "I know I've changed," she asserted, and for the first time she believed it enough to stand unwavering before him. "I've spent too long allowing myself to be defined by others, by you. But I'm moving forward, and with that comes both the pain of your memories and the hope of my future." Silence enveloped them again. Hearing his breathing harden against her newfound strength, Sarah felt both empowered and unnerved. Was this truly the end of their battle, or was this just the beginning of her resurgence? She took another breath, needing to dive deeper into herself, to grasp the truth that had eluded her for so long. This was more than a dialogue with Tom. It was a confrontation with the remnants of self-doubt that had clung to her. And suddenly, she saw light, the shimmering possibilities ahead. As she prepared to voice her next pointed declaration, aimed at liberating not only herself, but also laying down a boundary she had neglected to draw. She recognized an undeniable shift within her. Would the weight of her past collapse into meaningful lessons, or would it harden into a prison of her past mistakes? And as she opened her mouth to speak again, each word would carry the hope of unearthing the woman she truly was, beyond the shadow of her former self. But before the tension could resolve, a movement in her peripheral vision caught her attention. Another figure stepped forward, one that brought an unsettling twist to the drama unfolding between her and Tom. Who could it be? What new layer awaited her in this intricate dance of past and future? The figure stepped closer, an unexpected presence that pierced the charged atmosphere surrounding Sarah and Tom. It was Emily, a friend from Sarah's past who had always supported her through the tumultuous seas of her relationship. The moment their eyes met, a wave of warmth surged within Sarah, a stark contrast to the icy tension with Tom. "Sarah, I didn't mean to interrupt," Emily said, her voice steady yet filled with unspoken encouragement. Sarah's heart swelled. In that instant, she felt bolstered, as if Emily's belief in her was a shield against Tom's remnants of doubt. "Actually, you did, but it's a welcome interruption," Sarah replied, unable to contain a smile that was both nervous and relieved. She regained her composure, glancing back at Tom, who was now visibly perplexed by Emily's sudden involvement. The dynamics had shifted. Sarah felt a new energy flow between the three of them. "Maybe we all need to talk," Emily suggested, her eyes darting between them. "Tom, you can't just walk away from everything you did. And Sarah, you deserve to share your truth." Tom's expression morphed from surprise to defensiveness. "This is between Sarah and me," he shot back, grit lining his voice. But as the confrontation began to spiral again, Sarah locked eyes with Emily, grateful for her friend's presence, a tether to her newfound resilience. "No, it's not just about the two of us anymore," Sarah interjected, her voice steadying under the weight of this new alliance. "I'm no longer afraid to lay bare what I've been through because of him." The uncharacteristic anger that thudded in Sarah's chest felt strangely empowering. Each word became a brick in the wall she was building, a fortified structure against Tom's ingrained dismissiveness. Emily stepped closer, her energy mixing with Sarah's as they stood united. "I just want to understand where everything went wrong," Emily said softly, as she navigated the turbulent emotional waters. "Tom, what exactly were you trying to achieve?" Tom bristled at the openness from Emily, but Sarah sensed a hesitance in him, a subtle acknowledgement that perhaps he was cornered, not just by Sarah's resolve, but now by the presence of someone willing to stand beside her. "Isn't it clear?" he spat, flustered. "I was trying to help. You don't know what it was like between us, Emily." A split-second pause flared with a moment of vulnerability as his bravado slipped, but Sarah recognized that what he termed help was nothing but control shrouded in good intentions. "This was never about help, Tom. It was about ownership," she said, weaving her hand into Emily's firmly. "You took ownership of my insecurities and made them yours." She was looking directly at Tom now, unyielding in her perception of their shared history. Behind every flicker of passion in his gaze lay the fear of losing dominion over their narrative, a dull echo of the person she used to be. And it hit her. The narrative had shifted completely. This wasn't just a confrontation. This was the reclamation of her identity, stitched together with the threads of self-worth forged in solitude and introspection. "Sarah, you're delusional if you think you can rewrite what we've been through," Tom fired back, but the words dissolved in the vibrant air that thrummed with shared understanding. "No," she corrected him, her voice ringing with newly discovered authority. "I'm penning my next chapter. You were a part of my story, but I'm no longer letting you pen it for me. I owe it to myself to navigate it with my own compass." The lull that followed was filled with unspoken tension, each party pondering the implications of Sarah's assertion. Emily's presence remained a quiet affirmation of Sarah's evolution. It confirmed her growth was undeniable. Here, the two women stood together, embodying strength that rose from acknowledging their own vulnerabilities. Tom shifted uncomfortably. the intricacies of their dynamic now laid bare. His protective walls seemed more fragile than before. Something had irrevocably changed within him, sparked by reality and reflection in the face of women he once thought he could dominate. Yet beneath the surface, Sarah felt another shift occurring within her. This was not merely a spoke in their wheel, it was a defining moment that could steer her towards even greater avenues of personal development. What were the exact elements of her story that needed redefining, recalibrating? Where would her renewed strength lead her next? Before she could share her next thought, Tom shifted, his next retort ready on his lips. The game was not over, and Sarah sensed the climax was yet to unfold. What challenge lay ahead as the truth clamored for recognition? The room, heavy with silence following Sarah's proclamation, felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Sarah stood firmly beside Emily, the warmth of their connection contrasting sharply with the cold air of Tom's defiance. What had once been a tempest of overwhelming emotions was now crystallizing into clarity. Tom's eyes darted as he searched for a way to regain control. "You really think this is about you rewriting history, don't you? You're making it sound like you've been a prisoner," he sneered, but Sarah sensed the tightening grip of his anxiety. He hated to feel powerless, and at this moment, he was just that. "Maybe it's time I faced the truth instead of pretending I was okay," Sarah countered, her voice rising with determination, tinged with newfound self-awareness. "I won't allow you to manipulate my emotions or my memories any longer." Tom shifted again, discomfort etched across his features. Desperation clawed at him, evident in the way he clenched his fists. Sarah felt a wave of satisfaction mingling with her apprehension. She was stepping into her truth, yet Tom was still a significant figure in her life story, and she had to be strategic about the next moves. Emily broke the tension. "Tom, what you perceived as help often suffocated Sarah's ability to think for herself. Do you understand how that felt?" She reinforced Sarah's position, the subtle nod of solidarity invigorating Sarah's resolve. "I was only trying to protect her," Tom replied, but the bravado in his statement cracked. "You know that, right? I wanted to shield her from harm." "Shield? Or cage?" Emily posed sharply. There lay the crux of Tom's confusion. He had genuinely believed he was acting out of love, but true support didn't come with constraints. Sarah took a breath, weighing her words with intention. "Love isn't control. It opens doors, not locks them. It nurtures. It doesn't stifle. I allowed you to confuse my life choices with your own fears." The realization swelled inside her. She had even let a part of Tom's identity overshadow her own. The confusing interplay of emotions became evident, intricate yet resolvable. Tom flinched at her words but began to register the significance beneath them. "So now you're telling me I've been the villain in your story?" His voice, straining under the weight of self-realization, reflected more anger towards himself than towards Sarah or Emily. "Yes," Sarah declared, emboldened. "You were a part of the story, but it's my story now. I still have to write the pages beyond this chapter. What does that look like? I am still learning, evolving. No more masks." The thought ignited a series of reflections in her mind. Beyond confronting Tom, how would this shift in narrative inform her future? What new paths awaited, and whose support would she seek? An impulse struck. "I think I need time, for clarity, for space to think." The words were freeing, a testament to her emotional growth. Tom's gaze faltered, a blend of heartbreak and acknowledgement clouding his eyes. Emily leaned closer, inspiring Sarah with every shared breath. "No matter what happens next, Sarah, you're stronger than before. You're discovering the force that has always been there." Tom's expression tightened again. The last strand of control was slipping away, but something else brewed below the surface. Fear, perhaps, of losing her completely. "You think you can just walk away from everything we've built? From me?" Sarah felt the latent vulnerability in the air and the stakes rising, awareness dawning that the confrontation had cracked a deeper issue. "I'm not just walking away from you. I'm walking towards myself." The unexpected surge in Sarah's self-awareness ignited a cascade of questions about her future. What did independence truly mean for her? What newfound opportunities lay ahead now that she could dismantle past fears? The moment hung in the air, a tenuous spotlight illuminating her renewed path. Tom's answer would shape not only their dynamic, but also provide the clarity she desperately sought. Would he adapt to this new reality, or struggle for a grip on the persona he once had? Sarah's heart raced as she awaited his response, realizing she stood precariously on the precipice of her own transformation. Would she leap fearlessly into the unknown or hesitate at the edge, weighing her options? Sarah's thoughts raced like a whirlwind as she awaited Tom's response. The weight of her revelation hung heavily in the air, each second stretching into an eternity. She could feel Emily's presence beside her, a grounding force that awakened a flicker of hope within her. Tom finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you really think you're going to find out there? Alone?" His question bore not just desperation but also a hint of fear. That vulnerability was uncharacteristic of him, but it was precisely that honesty that steeled Sarah's resolve. "I think I'll discover who I am without you," she asserted, her voice growing stronger with every word. "I've been so buried under expectations, yours, my own. It's time I dig myself out and see what I find." Tom's face contorted, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah saw the remorse beneath his anger. Would this spark of honesty lead to a breakthrough or deepen his despair? Yet she knew she couldn't remain a hostage to his emotions any longer. They both had to be honest about their limitations. Emily's supportive gaze encouraged her to keep moving forward. "What's next for you, Sarah?" Emily prompted, drawing Sarah away from the intensity of the moment to reflect on her future. "Next, I need to focus on my career," Sarah said, the realization crystallizing in her mind. A sense of purpose emerged as she recalled the project she'd put on the back burner, a series of workshops intended to help women navigate personal and professional growth. "I've been too afraid to prioritize it." "What's stopping you?" Emily's question was laced with gentle curiosity. "Fear of failure, of disappointing myself and others," Sarah admitted, the words tumbling out. The honesty of that confession hit her hard, illustrating how deeply rooted her insecurities were. It became evident that the very projects that once excited her had become overshadowed by the specter of Tom's expectations. The thought of facing her fears filled her with both dread and excitement. But what if the workshops could help? Helping others might ignite a passion I've forgotten. "That's it," Emily beamed. "You've already been on a journey to break free from your past. Why not help others do the same? Take charge of your narrative?" Yes. Just as Sarah had reclaimed her voice in the conversation with Tom, she could reclaim her professional aspirations. The prospect of helping other women overcome obstacles sparked an undeniable excitement within her. Tom shifted uneasily, watching Sarah with a new intensity, his defenses still palpable, but now obscured by confusion. "And what if you fail?" The question hung ominously, but rather than deter her, it served as a catalyst. "What if I don't?" she countered, gaining confidence. "What if I flourish? This is about me claiming my story and my capacity to forge my future. I owe it to myself." The realization that she could direct her own path became a fire igniting in her chest. Sarah had to believe that stepping away from Tom could lead not only to personal freedom, but also to rekindling her passion. As she looked around the room, she felt the vibrations of her decision solidifying. A community of support resonated between her and Emily, each heartbeat affirming the steps toward her rebirth. "I'll take the next month to finalize my workshop plans. Take them seriously this time. I've been exploring everyone else's goals for too long." Emboldened, she declared, "I deserve to express my ambitions and to share them." Tom's jaw dropped, and for a moment Sarah feared the anger would resurface. But instead, she saw flashbacks of their shared moments filtering through his eyes, a complex tapestry of emotions colliding in a tumultuous sea. Would he really let her go with just a few words? "I guess you'll never know until you try," he finally managed, a reluctant acceptance creeping into his expression. The resolve in Sarah's heart burgeoned, a wave of determination flowing through her veins. Would Tom enter her reality of empowerment, Or would he remain enshrined in the past? A new chapter stretched before her, ripe with possibilities and potential. As the tension ebbed slightly, closure eluded her, revealing an emptiness among the unresolved questions. How could Sarah navigate her evolving identity while maintaining her sense of agency? What unforeseen challenges awaited her in this uncharted territory? With uncertainty swirling, Sarah braced herself for what lay ahead, knowing the next move would not just define her relationship with Tom, but also weave through the fabric of her future endeavors. She could sense a transformation initiating, a renewed Sarah rising to embrace her potential. The moment had arrived for her to spread her wings and begin her journey back to herself. But could she confront the deep-rooted fears that lingered from her past? The atmosphere surrounding Sarah had transformed into something electric, charged with anticipation and an unyielding sense of resolution. As she stood there, firmly aware of the defining line separating her past from her future, clarity washed over her like a sudden summer rain. With Tom's reluctant acceptance still echoing in her mind, Sarah's emotions swirled from relief to empowerment. The culmination of her journey had birthed a resolute identity, no longer tethered to the shadows of doubt and self-recrimination. Today marked a profound shift, not just in her relationship with Tom, but within the very core of who she was becoming. "I'm reclaiming my narrative," she whispered, a mantra fueled by newfound liberation. Emily, her steadfast companion, mirrored back the light in Sarah's eyes, buoyed by their shared realization of strength and vulnerability. In the then-stirring moments that followed, Sarah's imagination leaped beyond the confines of her past. She envisioned the workshops she had always wanted to conduct, transformative spaces that would empower women destined to rise beyond their adversities. The mere act of envisioning shifted her perspective from one limited by fear to a visionary frame where possibilities flourished. "I can help other women regain their footing," Sarah said, her voice steady and resolute. "The words I hesitated to claim can now motivate and inspire others." She felt an exhilarating sense of purpose enveloping her, a rare vulnerability transformed into an engine of ambition. As if spoken from the universe itself, an unexpected validation came when one of the attendees approached her. "I saw the way you stood up to Tom," the woman declared, her gratitude palpable. "Thank you for demonstrating strength. It was empowering." That simple acknowledgement mirrored the truths Sarah had fought to dispel. The belief she had buried deep inside telling her that she was not enough. In that moment, her pulse connected with a deeper wisdom. Her journey wasn't just about her personal healing. It was about turning her pain into a vehicle of aspiration for others. With the workshop idea ignited in her heart, clarity sharpened at her fingertips. "Next month I'll launch them," she said with certainty. The commitment ignited a wave of adrenaline. She felt an overwhelming urge to act, not out of obligation, but with profound enthusiasm. Tom shifted uneasily as the shadows of their past weighed heavily in the silence. "What if it doesn't work?" he murmured, attempting to reel her back into the doubts that had once defined her. But Sarah was unfazed, strength emanating from the essence of her truth. "What if it does? I'm done waiting for the right time. There never was one, only my resolve to embrace what lies ahead." The challenge of launching the workshops flickered vividly in her mind, concrete steps she needed to take to manifest her vision. Her mind danced with thoughts of creating materials, reaching out to interested participants, and finding ways to facilitate meaningful conversations among women seeking transformation. A stark contrast emerged between her former self, the one who hesitated to claim her worth, and the Sarah who now stood with conviction, poised for action. She could feel the deepened sense of resilience anchoring her. She wasn't just navigating a complex web of relationships, but manifesting her own identity as an architect of change. The dialogue with Tom transitioned, morphing into a recognition of what had been lost and gained. It wasn't just about navigating pain. It was perhaps also about recognizing the scars as pieces of evidence illustrating her evolution. "I'm proud of my journey, even the knots in the fabric of my life," she asserted. "Growth lies in acknowledgement." Tom's expression softened, presenting a flicker of understanding. "You're serious about this, aren't you?" minimal words, yet laden with revelations. "I am," Sarah affirmed, blazing with a newfound fearlessness. She caught the glimpses of respect forming amid their relationship, a shift from a dynamic of dominance to one where separation became a fertile ground for self-discovery. As the evening faded into a hushed tranquility, Sarah felt minutes dripping into hours of contemplation. She realized this confrontation with Tom had unlocked a treasure trove of possibilities previously hidden beneath layers of insecurity. Each question, each doubt, had catalyzed a turning point pivoting her toward abundant opportunity. She breathed, welcoming the exhilaration of change into her lungs, overflowing with belief. "I'm ready to pave my own way, to explore the depths of who I'd like to become," she claimed. That determination echoed not just in her voice but in her entirety. The remnants of doubt dissolved, leaving behind a foundation upon which she could build a future enriched with authenticity. Outside, the setting sun painted the horizon in hues of gold, a visual testament to her transformation. As she walked with purpose toward the door, the warmth of her journey surged within her, amplifying an undeniable belief. Sarah Jenkins was no longer merely surviving. She was living to discover the thriving woman she was destined to become. In these choices, she uncovered the essence of true fulfillment, achievements driven not by others' validation, but born from authentic self-exploration. Her life was becoming a canvas of courage, and no longer only colored by the shadows of her past. What lay ahead were infinite possibilities, each step forming an undeniable connection to her own ambition. She was ready to face tomorrow, not just as a mother or a victim of circumstance, but as a powerful force radiating strength and conviction. To those watching her evolve through this rebirth, Sarah's last thought lingered in the air. Transformation is an individual journey, but it is only by courageously confronting our fears that we unlock the doors to our fullest potential. Own your journey. Embrace your evolution. You need to subscribe now to elevate your journey with us. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion.